Why is a dead Jesus good news? How could he who died bring a gospel? That is the puzzle people were trying to solve, at least the people who followed Jesus. And Mark wrote his book to help them put together the pieces. For Mark's thesis that his gospel proves is that Jesus' death is actually good news. And Mark brought people to this conclusion by writing down what Jesus did through the truths he taught and the chains he loosened, through the powers he fought and the ailments he ruined. When Jesus spoke with people, it was often about God's kingdom. It was about the peaceful rule of heaven he would soon bring them. But mixed into his conversations' transcriptions were also predictions about his own crucifixion. The speeches Mark's gospel includes are meant to prepare us for the death of Jesus and how it is good news. When Jesus spoke of forgiveness, it's like he was visiting inmates in prison. Like when he healed the paralytic to show the skeptics that the real prison isn't any kind of sickness, but true imprisonment is to sin and its punishments. So, in each instance of the miraculous, when Jesus conquers someone's brokenness, Mark is trying to show us that Jesus has the authority to offer forgiveness and that his cross is good news because his death would accomplish it. When Jesus drove out demons, he was proclaiming the coming of his kingdom. By taking territory ruled by the enemy's legions, he was showing how he would take those under enemy occupation and free them. And when Jesus brought this freedom, it was a depiction of what he would do through his crucifixion, when he would bring us liberation from our enemy's greatest weapon, which is sin and its condemnation. When Jesus healed the sick, when he brought health to the unwell, he was showing how he would not only cure the symptoms of the grave, but would heal death itself. When he cleansed a leper or raised a daughter from her deathbed, he was pointing to the healing that would come from his own death and resurrection. That's why Jesus dying is good news. That's how he would bring the gospel. But strangely, when people caught a vision of who Jesus was, like when he gave sight to the sightless or life to the lifeless, Jesus commanded them to silence. But why this quietness? Why shouldn't this story be declared? If this gospel is good, if this gospel is news, isn't this gospel supposed to be shared? Yes, but not yet. Because everything Mark recorded pointed forward to the cross, the gospel event. So Jesus commanded them to silence, because they did not have good news yet. For something else had to happen first, which all his actions foreshadowed and described. Jesus had to be handed over to the scribes and the chief priests, and then by the Romans be crucified. But on his way to the cross, Jesus identified with those he taught, forgave, freed, and revivified. On his way to death, he put himself in the places of those he served in life. The king was betrayed and arrested, though we were the ones who committed the crimes. He was put through a false trial, which should have been our own, but he was condemned so he could forgive those who earned the sentence which he freely chose. He who went to the spiritually possessed and freed them was himself treated like a madman. He was mocked for having no power, having no kingdom. He who actually has all sovereignty was struck by earthly authorities, so he might fight the spiritual powers and beat them. And finally, he was taken outside the city, where he would give his life as a ransom for many. For the sickness he altered, he took in his flesh. The enemies he conquered, he no longer suppressed. The forgiveness he offered, he paid for its debt. The kingdom he fostered, he brought through his death. And until this happened, no one had good news yet. So why is a dead Jesus part of the gospel? How could he who died bring good news? Well, it's because without his death we stand accused, but by his death we are made new. That's what Mark wants us to see in the death of Jesus, that his cross was all a part of God's plan to free us. But Jesus dying is not by itself good news. The gospel is not that he just went to death. For the ending of Mark makes it clear that if Jesus only died, we still don't have good news yet. For it ends with women visiting the place Jesus was laid to rest. But they did not see Jesus at the grave. They only met an angelic witness. So by leaving us there, at the site where Jesus died, with the women silent, terrified, and confused, there seems to be a question Mark leaves behind as his gospel concludes. After seeing all Jesus did and all his work pointed to, Mark leaves us with the death of Jesus and seems to ask, do you believe this is good news? Hey, we're Spoken Gospel. Thank you so much for watching our introduction to the book of Mark. We are a nonprofit and we are making introduction videos to every single book of the Bible. And in each video, we're doing two specific things. We're trying to show that book's main theme and how that theme is fulfilled in Jesus and his gospel. And so we started in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. Now we're working our way through the Gospels with the book of Mark. We'll move to Luke and John and even the book of Acts after this. And we're already in pre-production for the wisdom books like Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Psalms, Song of Solomon. If you want to help us make those videos, you can actually support us. We give all of our videos away for free, and we are currently fundraising for the wisdom literature books. So you can go over to spokengospel.com/donate to support us in our mission. And we also have free videos, podcasts, devotionals, all available for free at our website, spokengospel.com.